When we think of Japan, we think about its rich cultural heritage, its cuisine, and the Japanese people, who are often associated with a high level of politeness and a strong sense of etiquette. Also, we often perceive Japan as a safe place. Compared to other parts of Asia, I do think this is true to some degree, but the question remains, is Japan safe for women? We hear many stories from women living in Japan about frequent experiences of molestation in broad daylight, and the same applies to women in Korea, I must say. Behind the glitz and glamour of society, which is often the sole focus of dramas, there is always a dark side. And on my channel, that's what we are going to discuss. Today's case is another level shocking, and it serves as a stark reminder that Japan may not always be a safe place for women, especially if you find yourself in the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong people. In Japan, victims of gender-based crime are often brushed off. According to a BBC documentary, gender-based crimes are rampant, but the victims are reluctant to come forward with their testimony for fear of being shamed. After all, the belief that sexual assault is a myth remains strong in Japan, as well as in several other Asian countries. The sexualization and fetishization of assault videos exacerbate the situation for victims. Sexual assault can occur anywhere, from a private place like one's own home to a public setting, such as the subway, often referred to as chikan. The term chikan is commonly used to describe men who exploit crowded conditions on public transit systems to grope women. And this explanation sets the background for what we will discuss further in today's case. So today, let's take a look into a disgusting Japanese university club that was created to take advantage of female students. The Super Free incident in Japan. I'm sure many of you are familiar with college clubs. Each university has its own variety, ranging from at least 5 to, of course, more than a handful. These clubs act as either extracurricular activities or just places where students can indulge into their hobbies. But as unbelievable as it is, are you aware of the existence of sexual assault clubs? At first, I thought there was no way a group of individuals would join that type of club, at least sane individuals. But it's not uncommon for such clubs to exist, even hidden from the naked eyes of educational institutions. Of course, it's not like they openly advertise that the club would trick women and serve them up to male members. On the surface, they are just like any other clubs. They mask their club as a normal gathering, but they prey on the girl members, or even strangers. So it's quite difficult to track them one by one, compounded by the victim's reluctance to report it. Those who fall victim are subjected to getting drugged and a disgusting gang assault. A well-known story of a super free club is one example of it. Established way back in 1982, Super Free was initially a social gathering club at Waseda University. Waseda University here is known to be an elite university, as they have multiple ministers and heads of companies among its alumni. But this prestigious image would soon be tarnished by this incident, or perhaps an issue that had been ongoing for quite some time, but no one had dared to speak about. The duration of the Super Free Circle's operation as an assault circle is unknown. It might have once been a normal gathering club for students, but it changed drastically when one student became the organizer of the club. Shinichiro Wada was a second-year student in 1995 when he became the head of that gathering club. It was then that Super Free transformed into something unlike any other school club, becoming wildly notorious. Let's learn a little about Wada himself. Shinichiro Wada had initially planned to enroll at Chuo University of Tokyo in 1993, but he aspired for more. He was an ambitious young man. He wanted to be more than he actually was. So he started taking Waseda's entrance exam, and he got in. Then Wada became aware of the existence of this super free club and decided to join it. The club was known for having fun with the girls at parties, so who could resist? Wada was well liked in that circle until he eventually became the head organizer of the club. Super Free operated not just within one university, but branched out to other circles, forming a joint group. Their primary activities included frequent rave parties at clubs in Tokyo, especially in the Roppongi district. To keep their criminal activities under wraps, Wada instructed club members to distribute tickets for their activities only to trusted individuals and eager freshmen. From the outside, Super Free appeared to be a typical fraternity-style club, but it was actually very successful. The club included members not only from Waseda University, but also from other prestigious universities around Tokyo. According to one report, they had 5 branches, 30 employees, and even an office in Tokyo. The tickets they distributed weren't free. Wada reportedly earned 10 million yen, which is about 70,000 US dollars annually. But money wasn't their only goal. Their primary objective was women. Super Free attracted many young students and women, especially from less elite universities. These women were their main targets because they were vulnerable and believed that attending the parties would give them access to the high-ranking Tokyo lifestyle. Ryuichi Taigo, an investigator interested in the case, began researching what happened and what led to this heinous mess. According to him, these women who were not attending universities in the big city of Tokyo were willing to believe the flyers advertising rave parties as representing the typical Tokyo lifestyle. He even stated that some of the victims in court admitted to consenting to the gang assault and became lovers of the Super Free members. The modus operandi was always the same. All guests and members gathered in a club for a rave party, got special girls drunk, and took them to the bathroom. The girls were made extremely drunk by being encouraged to drink as much alcohol as they could until they were unable to resist anymore. They'd then be taken to the bathroom where the members of the Super Free circles take turns in line to sexually assault them. The act of gang assault was not only permitted, but was actively encouraged by Wada himself. In the power structure, which resembled a pyramid, Wada viewed gang assaulting girls as a way to demonstrate solidarity among members. Wada allegedly told the Super Free members that those who would not participate in this heinous act were not truly part of the group. But it's so distressing to think how any sane person could so readily accept his words without logical thinking. This specifically organized crime didn't only take place in bar bathrooms, but also in other locations. The girls could be taken to an alleyway, a stairwell, hotels, or even to Wada's or a member's house. The perpetrators made sure to target the most vulnerable and attractive girls, then spike their drinks with strong vodka with nearly 90% alcohol. If that wasn't sufficient or available, drugs were also used to knock their victims unconscious. More often than not, the members would take pictures of the assault to blackmail and silence their victims. This tactic enabled them to easily control the victim, making it difficult for her to report the act anywhere. It was reported that a member named Kishimoto was tasked with calming the struggling victims. By keeping their victims quiet and cooperative, they were able to operate under the police radar for years. In total, around 100 women were estimated to have been assaulted by Super Free members. It was also said that about 50 men were involved in the gang assaults. The frequency of committing the crime varied among members. Some stated they had only done it once or twice, while others admitted to doing it up to 15 times. The number of victims, perpetrators, and frequency of the crimes can't be determined because of the nature of the crime itself. On December 19, 2001, Wada and 2 other members of Super Free assaulted a 19-year-old college student at Wada's residence. In April 2003, Wada and 12 members of the gang assaulted an 18-year-old near a Roppongi building before taking her to Wada's residence for further assault. On May 18, 2003, Wada and 4 other members assaulted a 20-year-old college student at the same Roppongi location. The reason why I'm mentioning these 3 cases is that despite there possibly being more than 100 victims, only Wada and 13 of the Super Free members were arrested on just 3 counts of the assaults I just mentioned. Even when these reports finally came out and multiple women bravely came forward with similar reports, they requested that their complaints not be filed. Perhaps they believed that those arrested were just the tip of the iceberg and feared they could be blackmailed or targeted for revenge at any time. Wada was sentenced to 14 years of imprisonment, while the others received imprisonment punishments ranging from 28 months to 10 years. Wada's sentence wasn't the maximum, partly because his father made a plea, offering to compensate the victims. But yes, this compensation was only for those involved in the 3 reports. Despite their heinous crimes, these individuals had the audacity to appeal their sentences. Wada appealed his verdict in 2003, but the Tokyo High Court rejected these appeals in June 2005 and upheld the original verdict. Wada and the others tried to submit their appeal to the Supreme Court of Japan, but their efforts were in vain, as the Supreme Court also rejected it in November of the same year. According to sources, despite his sentence officially ending in 2017, Wada was released on parole earlier. He now resides in Osaka, having changed his name and address. This case became a catalyst for revising Japan's sexual assault laws and led to the addition of a gang sexual assault prosecution law to the Criminal Code of Japan. The need for change was underscored by the disparity in sentencing. The minimum sentence for robbery was 5 years, while for sexual assault, it was only 2 years. This discrepancy highlighted a troubling valuation of human dignity versus property in the eyes of the law. Not to mention, then Chief Cabinet Secretary Yasuo Fukuda made controversial and absolutely creepy comments during an off-the-record discussion with the reporters in June 2003 regarding this Super Free incident. He stated that there are women who look like they're saying, "Do it to me," and it's the women's fault because men are panthers. I mean, what? How sick in the mind do you have to be to say that? Though still, Fukuda said that that comment was distorted and he never intended to defend sexual assault. As I was researching this case, I actually found out something about the notorious way some men in Japan view sex and assault. There was an anime made in the 90s called Rape Man, which tells the story of a superhero whose motto is righting wrongs through penetration. He takes revenge on women, including high school girls, for his clients. And this anime is still enjoyed by men even today. An explanation that I found is quite interesting. One manga collector said that after Japan's defeat in World War II, Japanese men developed an inferiority complex. They used to feel dominant, especially over women, but the post-war period left them feeling defeated and dishonored. This is why some seek to regain a sense of power by consuming such media and, in extreme cases, emulating it, blurring the lines between fiction and reality. I don't know. If any of you are watching from Japan, I'm sure you can give us a better explanation. The way Japan views women is still a topic of ongoing debate within its legal system. Despite adjustments to the criminal code, the reality is that gender-based attacks continue to take place, and gender discrimination remains prevalent in the 21st century. Even after this case, in 2014, dozens of girls were found unconscious on the streets of Shinjuku. These girls were not merely drunk, but completely unconscious, lying on the street with their skirts up to their hips, and several were reported to have soiled themselves, which raised suspicions that someone might have slipped a muscle relaxant or some type of drugs into their drinks. All of these girls were students from Japan Women's University and played tennis with male members of the tennis club of Meiji University earlier that day. Meiji University issued an official statement that they would prevent this from ever happening again, and that was it. I feel terrible for all the victims out there, and yet all I can do is wish for the recovery of every victim of sexual assault and for the safety of other women. Stay safe, everyone, and as always, thank you for watching.